What's your thoughts on the rise of the flat earthers on YouTube? They are having conventions with thousands of attendees. Why the sudden rejection of decades of established facts and the lean towards conspiracy theories? You can also apply a similar argument to the anti-vaxxers. Yeah, I was thinking of tackling the flat Earth subject in a regular video, but I never did. So I guess we'll do it now. I saw a documentary recently about flat earthers on Netflix. I forget the name of it. It's probably easy to find if you have Netflix. But yeah, so a large part of this documentary centered around this one guy, and it was very clear when I looked at him that, you know, he's trying to project himself as being really smart, but he's not really all that smart. And there was a lot of ego in his demeanor, and you could see that he really enjoyed the attention that was poured upon him and the infamy or fame that he was given by adhering to this worldview and by promoting it. So I think we have to bear in mind that we live in a world where you don't have to be rational to survive, and not everybody is rational. I mean, the human race doesn't continue because people are rational. If anything, it continues more because they're irrational. You know, irrational enough to recklessly have sex and create more babies, right? Of course, you can do that rationally too. But what I'm saying is, you know, rationality isn't a prerequisite for actually surviving, right? So I accept that I live in a world that has irrationality all over the place. Look at the survival of religion, right? And that's closely tied to this flat earth thing, the sort of mentality that it requires to be in this sort of camp. So we know, you know, a religious person accepts a 3-day-old corpse that just got up and walked because they read it in a 2,000-year-old book, right? I accepted that once. So there, you know, first of all, you have the ability to accept grandiose claims without evidence, right? And then you have the very human need for community. That's there in religion, and it's also there in the whole flat earth thing. They band together as this community of people. And then you have ego gratification. There's plenty of ego going on in religion, and there's plenty of ego going on in flat earth society, especially if you're a prominent speaker, right? So I just think it happens because people are irrational and people have those particular needs, and it is very understandable, really. You know, you show them, but the kind of lengths they have to go to, you know, you show them a satellite photograph where you can clearly see that the Earth has a curvature to it, and to get around that they have to invent a NASA conspiracy, right? And they're willing to do that without evidence. There's a NASA conspiracy. So the mentality is, this doesn't fit where I'm going. This doesn't fit what I want to believe. Therefore, conspiracy time, right? And this is exactly what Christians do also. You know, they don't like evolution because it doesn't fit with, you know, the fall from grace in the Garden of Eden. You find this. So it takes a particular kind of person who changes his mind when presented with clear evidence to the contrary of what you believe. I mean, if I were to try and tackle a flat earther, to try and change a flat earther's mind, what information would I say? I've thought about that, but I know that no matter what I say, they'll find a way around it. I mean, when I first looked at this movement, I thought, well, how can they possibly believe that? Because, you know, if you just sail a ship east, it doesn't fall off the edge of the world. And then I realized that their map of the world is a very curious one. They have the North Pole in the center, and then it's all, if you imagine like taking the globe of the Earth and pressing it down at the North Pole and having the South Pole explode outwards. So Antarctica is a big, Antarctica is around the edge of the world, right? And then you have all the continents, and you have the North Pole in the center. It's really weird because if you're anywhere on the Earth and you just go east, that ought to take you on a kind of curve like that. But, you know, on a globe, east takes you round, the whole way around, round. But on the flat Earth, if you go east, it has to take you in a curve that circles the North Pole. You know, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense. And then they have the idea that the sun is always, they have the sun and the moon. I've seen these little models that they've made of a flat Earth, and they have the sun and how the sun and the moon interact with each other. But the sun's always there, casting this little pool of light over a small area. And it doesn't seem to register that no matter where you, on a flat Earth model, no matter where you are, it always has to be daylight. You know, the sun never goes underneath the flat plane of the Earth. It's always above, and so's the moon. How do they rationalize that? I don't know how they rationalize that. So what I would say to a flat Earth, the strongest argument I would give, and this is from iUniverse, not in the context of flat Earth, but I mentioned this in iUniverse. 340 BC, Aristotle knew that the world was round. And he figured it out because he understood what was happening with a lunar eclipse. So, lunar eclipse is when you see a full moon over there. So, you know that the sun must be way back here somewhere because it's casting a full moon. So, it's way back out of sight somewhere. Obviously, if you see the sliver of the moon, the sun must be over that side, because you can hold a ball and shine a light on it. You can see how the light behaves. So it's very clear that the moon's a sphere, the sun's shining on it. So you've got the full gaze of the sun on the moon, but suddenly there's an eclipse. So what's causing the eclipse? Well, it must be the Earth coming between the sun and the moon, right? So that's the shadow of the Earth hitting the moon. And the shadow is always a perfect circle. Now, if the Earth were a flat, stationary plane, the shadow could not be a circle, it would have to be an ellipse. Because it could only be a circle if it was like upturned exactly that way, in which case you wouldn't be able to see. It has to be an elliptical shape, but it's not, it's a circle. Clearly the Earth's a globe. But I bet you, if you talk to flat earthers, I bet you they know a way around that. They'll find a way to argue it in some way that allows them to dismiss it. The really interesting part of that documentary was what happened when one of the flat earthers purchased some kind of fancy gyroscope that I think it was something like $20,000 to buy, because they were going to do their own experiment and they were going to prove that the Earth was flat. Now, they weren't going to trust any information from anybody but themselves. So I'm not going to get the science of this exactly right, but it was something to do with if the gyroscope was off by a certain number of degrees, that would correspond to the tilt of a globular, circular Earth, a sphere that was tilted or something like that, right? So they were counting on the fact that when they used this gyroscope, there wouldn't be any offset, there wouldn't be anything that showed that. But they tried it, and they got results that were exactly what you would expect if the Earth was a sphere, right? They would not accept that. So they got some kind of special metal box that was supposed to protect the gyroscope from any interference that might be from up there somewhere or whatever. They tried it again and they got the same results again, and they still didn't accept it. And then they were talking about some kind of special room that they were going to do it in, and that was the last I heard about it. So there's the perfect example. They won't go. They won't go where the evidence leads, because they're emotionally tied to a belief system that they don't want to sacrifice it. I had to sacrifice my belief system, because my Christian belief system, because it wasn't working for me. So there was a certain kind of impetus there. I had come across this esoteric spirituality that was just so much more rational, right? So in one sense, it wasn't hard to let go of Christianity, because, as I say, it wasn't working. But it was hard in other ways, because I was tied to a community. I was tied to close friendships, some of which totally fell apart and have never been rebuilt, just because I had a metaphysical difference of opinion with these people. So I guess that makes me a rare breed. Maybe you too. I hope so. I hope the people listening to this are of the same mind, that you must go where the evidence leads, even if it upturns your life, even if it's really uncomfortable, even if there are negative consequences. Because, it has to be worth it to go with what you think the truth is, rather than where the herd wants you to go, rather than whatever just makes you comfortable, But human beings are generally just wired for community and comfort and ego gratification and things like that.